So you're thinking about moving to Bend, Oregon, but you're just not quite sure where in Bend you want to live, or even if you want to live in Bend at all. Maybe you can't stand Bend, but still like the idea of living somewhere else in Central Oregon. Well, in this video, we're going to be walking you through Deschutes County on a map to hopefully give you some better clarity on Bend, Redmond, and the surrounding region to help you find out where exactly in Central Oregon would be the best fit for you. So if this video sounds like it's for you, then stick around because we're going to be getting after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living, eating, sleeping, working, playing, the good and the bad of living in Bend, Oregon, then subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell below so you can be the first to know about the current market in Bend, Oregon. My name's Ryan and I've lived in Bend for over 30 years. My partner Zach and I, we get calls and texts every day from people just like you, looking for help on making their move to Bend, Oregon. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or even set up a Zoom meeting. We'd be happy to help you make that smooth move to Bend, Oregon, or anywhere nearby. Okay, so like we talked about in the intro, we're going to be doing a screen share of a Google map, and we're going to be walking through Central Oregon and Deschutes County primarily here. So I'm just going to transition over here to the map, share screen, get myself over here, and we're off and running. So what we have here in the middle, this is Central Oregon. This is Deschutes County, as you can see here. We have it right in the front and center here. This is Deschutes County. It's about 3,000 square miles. It's about the same size as, say, Delaware and Rhode Island if you combine those two states. So it's the size of two of the smallest states, and it makes up about that type of mass in terms of square mileage. We've got Bend here right in the middle. It's basically right in the middle of the state. And majority of our population in Deschutes County is going to be running from Redmond through Bend, and then down into Sun River, and then down into La Pine. This is Highway 97 here, so it's the main highway that goes north to south. We also have the east to west byway. This is Highway 20, and basically this area here, there's no population. There's Little Brothers there, but there's hardly any people that live there. And it goes all the way through, turns into 126, and we go up to Sisters and Black Butte Ranch. And so that's basically the two main highways to get through the county. And we also have another one. It's the Cascade Lakes Highway, and it's right here. And we'll zoom in on that in a little bit. But this is the road to Mount Bachelor. It's about 20 minutes from Bend on a good day when it comes to traffic. When it's a really good day skiing, then there can be some traffic. It's a single lane road for the most part. And that can get backed up, especially if people are trying to get up to the mountain early in the morning. So now that we can zoom in here, we'll take a quick look. And we have a better understanding of Bend. So obviously the gray area here, that's going to be Bend. And then again, this is the highway here. This is 97, and that's 2 lanes from Redmond to Bend. And it can get pretty congested. Bend and Redmond are kind of already coming together in terms of the fact that they're 2 towns, they're brother sister towns, and they've basically been what they are for a long time. But a lot of people now live in Redmond and they'll commute to and from Bend and vice versa. I've done that for a long time myself. And so we get a lot of traffic on this main road. This is the highway, it's 2 lanes, and it acts like a freeway. People go up to 75 or even 80 miles an hour on it, even though there's still turn lanes, merge lanes, and things like that. And so there's a center median, and people can turn left across the highway to oncoming traffic and vice versa. And so there can be some challenges there for sure when it comes to driving there, especially when there's high traffic days early in the morning and late in the evening when it comes to commuting back and forth from work. Also, as far as the airport goes, the airport's going to be in Redmond too. So the majority of people that are traveling to the airport from Bend, they're going to have to take this highway, and if it's backed up, it can be a bit of a challenge if you're not getting to the airport in time. Usually the airport, it's a smaller airport, so we've got 28 daily commercial flights, and we have, I think we finally just eclipsed, or we just came across 1 million passengers in a single year. That was 2021. In fact, they got a little article here from the Redmond spokesman that talks about how we got to 1 million passengers 5 years ahead of schedule. You can see here it wasn't projected until 2026. And so that's pretty crazy to see that this area of growth. We're starting to see that type of volume at our airport. But what you want to do if you're coming from Bend, you want to leave probably a good hour to an hour and 15 minutes ahead of schedule. But there, again, it's a smaller airport, so you can get through security at a pretty reasonable rate and then get in there waiting for your plane. Early in the morning is going to be the busiest time, but that's where the airport is going to be located. Our fairgrounds are also right next to it. You can see here the Deschutes County Fairgrounds and Expo Center. So Redmond's claim to fame, they've got both the airport and the Deschutes County Fairgrounds. So a lot of people commute from Bend to those two locations, and we get a lot of traffic on that highway for those purposes as well. So here we go, we're in Bend now. This is the main area of Bend. You can see 97 goes right through town, and it turns into kind of a parkway. It's a makeshift freeway system that we have. So we have, basically it's 2 lanes. It goes north and south. And then what happens is at the very north end, right in here, we have 2 stoplights. Couple of stoplights right here and here. That can bottleneck traffic a little bit when people are commuting back and forth. And then we also have another one down here at the very south end. So what's interesting about this parkway, it's a freeway within the city here. It acts as a freeway, so there's a big median there, and there's just merging on and off, but there's no turning left or right across the traffic. You have to go, you have to exit the freeway I call it. And then when you get to the very tail end or the very north end of town here, it turns back into a regular highway system. And so we have traffic lights, we have a big shopping center up here, Lowe's is up here, we have Target up here, we have Home Depot, Best Buy. There's a big shopping center up here. In fact, we're going to be getting a Costco and a new Fred Meyer coming up into this region here in the next couple of years. So that's going to make even more congestion. In fact, there's going to be a overpass that's going to be going in soon too to help mitigate all the traffic that's going to be coming from the new Costco, the new Fred Meyer, and all the other stores that come along with it. But if we look down here, our Costco currently is on the east side. It's right in this range right here. That's where Costco currently is. This is Pilot Butte here, the green. And so you can see if we blow it or we zoom in a little bit, we're able to get a better idea as to what it looks like. Costco's right there. Pilot Butte State Park. You saw the video. If you check out the video I did on Pilot Butte from earlier, this is where we were hiking up to get a full bird's eye panoramic view of the city of Bend and the surrounding area. And we could see the mountains, and we can see Smith Rock to the north. We could see Bersada Ranch to the east, all kinds of stuff. So just the view is great from the top of Pilot Butte State Park, which is pretty unique. So if we zoom back out and we take a quick look at this highway system right here, this is the Cascade Lake Scenic Byway. Okay, and so this is the road to Mount Bachelor, like we talked about, as well as the Cascade Lakes. So it goes all the way out here, and we have Bachelor right here. That's our prized mountain there. It's the 6th largest ski mountain in North America. Over 4,000 skiable acres, 3,000 vertical feet of terrain. We have 11 lifts, as well as 8 express quads. And in fact, 2 years from now, the 23-24 season, one of our lifts, Skyliner Express, is going to be converted into a 6-chair seat. And so that should be interesting to see how that plays out and controls traffic on the mountain. But if we continue looking over here, Deschutes County, West Deschutes County, we're going to get an idea for the highway. So we got the highway system here. This is the Cascade Lakes Highway, right? So there's 12 primary lakes that make up the Cascade Lakes Highway, or the term the Cascade Lakes. So if we zoom in here, you're going to see there's hundreds of lakes all over here. And a lot of these are really hard to get to. You have to do extensive trail hiking. This is actually the Pacific Crest Trail here, this little red dot here, this line that goes back and forth, which is kind of cool. So the Pacific Crest Trail goes from all the way to the top of the United States to the bottom, and even beyond that, but it goes right through Central Oregon as well. And so you can see Elk Lake here. That's a really popular lake in the summertime, as well as in the wintertime. And then if we continue on the highway here, we have Lava Lake, Cultus Lake. That's a ski lake, popular lake. That's at about 6,000 feet. So the water is much cooler. for swimming than a few of the other lakes in the area that we can talk about in a little while. But the highway goes all the way down to the edge of the county line here, and then it meets up here at Highway 58. And 58 is another way to get to Eugene, Oak Ridge, and on to the Eugene area here, which is about a 2-hour drive. So Eugene is about 2 hours, whichever way you go. There's 2 ways to get to Eugene from Bend. And you can see here, again, it comes back to that road that we talked about earlier on the way to Sisters, Black Butte Ranch. Comes up here, Highway 20. We have a Santiam Junction right here. And so this is up in the mountains too. This is the Cascade Range. This is going over the Santiam Pass. And this is the way that we get to the valley, where the majority of the people that live in Oregon live. And so the stigma of Oregon always being a really green and rainy location for people to live, it's just a state that always rains. I mean, that does hold true a little bit because the majority of our people live here, but it's happening over here in the Willamette Valley, not so much on our side of the mountains, which is cool. So we have Oregon over here, of course, the west side of Oregon. This is the Willamette Valley here. This is where the majority of our population resides, right in this region here. Okay, if we have 4 million people in the state, we probably have, I'm going to speculate, 3 million people living in this little circle right here. And that's where the majority of our people live, but it also, this is the Willamette Valley, like stated, and it rains a lot. Although I will say that the Oregon coast rains even more. And so my joke for people is that the Oregon coast makes the Willamette Valley look like Palm Springs, because that weather over there can be pretty suspect as well. But luckily, we're talking about Bend and Deschutes County today. And we're on the east side of the mountains. And so what happens is we get all of the cloud formations that occur on the Oregon coast. They come over into the valley, and then they stop right in this range here. This is where the peaks are, the mountains. So we have multiple 10,000 foot peaks, as well as kind of a base layer of about 6,000 feet when it comes to the Cascade Range. And that's what separates Bend and Central Oregon and Deschutes County from the rest of the west side of the state. So the cloud buildup kind of halts at the mountains, and that's what gives us such a different climate than, say, what happens in the Willamette Valley. And so we get our 300 days of sunshine, we get warm days in the summer, we get cooler nights in the summer nights. And so it's pretty cool to have that type of landscape in Bend. It's really pleasant to live in most of the time. We do get some winter days and really consistent winter-like weather sometimes every winter, but we deal with that. That's just part of living in the mountains. So let's zoom back in here. Let's continue looking a little closer at Central Oregon and Deschutes County. So we did talk about some of the Cascade Lakes over here. We have the Cascade Lake Scenic Byway, and it comes up here, it loops around Bachelor, and it turns south to head down towards Highway 58. But this is where a lot of our lakes are, the Cascade Lakes. They're famous. And that is what the southwest part of the county looks like. Deschutes National Forest, like I said earlier, has over 150 lakes, but most of them are really hard to get to. You have to do some planning and some hiking to get to those. But the 12 primary lakes are all accessible by way of this highway system. And if you ever get a chance to actually just take a day trip, a drive on this on a clear day, it's some of the most spectacular scenery you're ever going to see. So let's continue on. South County here. We have Lapine down here, and this is on 97. So a little bit higher in elevation, probably 4,500 feet. They get more snow, they get cooler days, they get more freezes than we do down here in Bend, which we're at about 3,600 feet. And so everything here is on a grade. It goes from higher elevation from the southwest and west, and it just lowers in elevation as we go east and north. And so if Bend's at 3,600 feet, Redmond is going to be at about 3,000 feet, and it continues to go down slope as we continue north, even into Jefferson County up here. Madras is up here. It's the biggest town in Jefferson County, a neighboring county, and they're at about 2,000 feet, I believe. So again, it just the elevation just goes down the further we go north. So let's continue on. Let's zoom in here a little bit. We'll take a quick look at more of Bend. Now we have the Deschutes River. Okay. And so this river goes right through Bend too. And that's partly where Bend got its name. There was a bend in the river of some sort. Maybe it was right here. But that's where Bend got its name. Farewell Bend, settled back in 1900, incorporated. But here we are, logging, and that's what the river was used for. So the river starts up in the mountains, and there's tons of trees, ponderosas, pine trees. And what happened was the mills, loggers went up there and they cut down the logs, and they ended up floating those logs down the river. And then they'd wind up coming to the mill, and that's where the production for the trees began. And that's kind of what the industry for Bend was when it first started out. Now things are changing. It's more of a tourist destination, and that's been the theme of Bend for the last 30 years. But even since then, there's been so many people that have moved into town because they love the tourism of Bend that they end up bringing their own type of industry with them. And since then, we've also been able to expand into more than just tourism, but we still are primarily tourism, which is fine, but we are bringing some new industry to town, which is also a huge benefit to the area because it creates more jobs and more people can figure out a way to make a living here while also enjoying the amenities that Bend has to offer. You see over here, we have a little airport too. It's just a private airport. There's no commercial flights that come in and out, but a lot of people own their private planes and they end up flying in and out of this little landing strip as well. But the primary airport, the commercial airport, like talked about before, it's going to be up here in this little region right here in Redmond. So if we we zoom back in a little bit more, we blow up the picture, we're going to see what we have. The river, the west side of town is where a lot of action is. It's really walkable. It's a really popular place to live. As you can see here, we'll zoom in a little bit more. This is the downtown area here. We have Drake Park, very iconic park that goes right along the river here. This is Mirror Pond. It's the Deschutes River, but it's been dammed up here. And so it's just pretty stagnant. It's just still water. It does flow, obviously, it's still a river, but it's very, very still, and there's not a lot of action when it comes to the river itself, but you can float through it. A lot of people like to stand up paddleboard through this area here, as well as right up in this stretch of the river. This became a really popular floating area in the summertime. There's thousands of people that will float any given day in the summertime. This stretch of white water here, and it actually goes up a little further right up here. So this is basically the area. River Bend Park is a newer park. It's 15 years old, maybe. What happened was in 2004, this road called Reed Market Road, it's the second busiest east to west road in Bend behind Highway 20, or otherwise known as Greenwood in town, but we looked at Highway 20 earlier. But a little bit further south is Reed Market Road, and it stretches all the way to 27th Street. But right in here, we ended up getting an extension. So that Reed Market used to stop right about here. And since then we've added a roundabout. And in 2004, the road was extended all the way across the south part of this bend. And then across, there was a bridge that was put in right here in 2004. And that really opened up a lot of access for people that lived on the east side, because before that, the furthest south crossing of the river was going to be right here on Colorado Avenue. And that was kind of tricky because a lot of people live over here, and so they'd have to travel all the way through town to get up here. And now this has been a little bit more beneficial, but this was all logging area here. And now it's turned into a park. But the point is this region right here, this is where people love to put into the river. And so this whole stretch of river right here, very still. There's a little bit of rapids here, a little bit, you go underneath the bridge, and then it really calms down. And so all the way throughout here and here, all the way up, I mean, this is where thousands of people will float and recreate on the river every single day during the summertime. And it comes all the way down to Drake Park. Usually people kind of pull out right here, and then they can either get back to their car on their own, or there's actually a shuttle service that helps people go back and forth. So that's really popular. Over here's the west side of town. We have really, really quaint, really popular, small, intimate neighborhoods that are close by that have been around since the early 1900s. Some of these houses are very old, but they've been modernized and they've been fixed up. And so they look fantastic. And there's just so much character in this region of town here, the original Old Bend. Old Bend's also on the other side of the river, but this is where a lot of people lived for a long time, and some of these neighborhoods are the oldest in town. If we go a little bit further to the west, we wind up getting into the Mount Washington Drive area. And this is the road. It turns into Mount Washington right here at Century Drive, right here. And it's Reed Market on this side. Remember that little bridge that we talked about, the new crossing, Southern Crossing? It turns into Mount Washington Drive right here. So they connect, and this is Century Drive on the way to Bachelor. But once it turns into Mount Washington Drive, it's now on the west side of town. And this is the road that goes all the way to the west of town, and then it goes up around the college here, Central Oregon Community College. And this is basically the west base of Aubrey Butte. So you can see here, if we zoom out a little bit more, we're going to be able to see Mount Washington Drive goes all the way around. Very popular Aubrey Butte. Over 1,000 houses on this butte with spectacular views that face the west as well as the east. These houses range from $750,000 all the way up to $3 or $4 million with a few of them, and very popular area to live. But Mount Washington will stretch all the way around and loop back around on the north end of town, and then it turns into Butler Market. So in essence, we've got 3 different roads that are all connected to each other, 3 different named roads that do a big loop around Bend, and they connect the town as opposed to just having to use that highway system. So you can see here, these roads go, this road is just a single road, but it has 3 different names. Comes all the way back, crosses at the north end of the highway there, and then it turns into Butler Market. Eventually it comes back out to 27th Street, right where it starts. So 27th Street's on the east side. It was basically the original byway of Highway 97 that was put in. And so we have that's the main road, 27th Street, Butler Market Road, Mount Washington Drive, and then Reed Market Road. And you're able to see the majority of Bend on the inside of these roads. I mean, it's a single road, like I said, but it's got 3 different names. But that's one way to get around town. Let's see. We zoom in a little bit more, take a quick look. We have Tethero here. This is a really popular area as well. Big championship golf course, absolutely amazing link style golf course. Some people don't like it because of the way their tee shots go. If they hit one right down the middle, they stripe it, and all of a sudden the link style course will still flow their ball left or right off the fairway. That gets kind of frustrating and tiring sometimes. I can attest to that. And if we go a little bit further to the west, just off the city limits here, we have Phil's Trailhead, which is a bike trail system that is absolutely incredible for anybody that loves to mountain bike. And so there's trail systems that go all the way up to Mount Bachelor. You can see these little green lines here. These are the bike trails, and they will take you all the way up to the Mount Bachelor. Let's see if we can keep them on the screen. All the way up to Mount Bachelor, Skyliner Snow Park. All these trails, yeah, there's just hundreds, if not thousands of miles of bike trails all up on the way to the mountains here. So it's pretty remarkable. Here's Bachelor. You can see here, if we zoom in, we actually get to see some of the runs. And again, Bachelor will open, their goal every year is about Thanksgiving time, and they want to stay open all the way past Memorial Day. So we have a big local race. It's a big event called the Pole Pedal Paddle, and that's in the middle of May every year. And that draws in thousands of people and some of the best triathlete style athletes in the world. And they come and compete in this thing, but Bachelor's part of that. It's the pole part, right? It's the skiing. And so it starts up here and it goes all the way down into Bend, 20 miles away, and it ends either at Drake Park or in the Old Mill District. It kind of goes back and forth lately, but yeah, it's pretty remarkable. But you have the goal for Bachelors to stay open past that date, and it usually does. We have winter-like weather in the springtime that tends to last all the way into June sometimes. And so we'll get these Indian summers that last into the fall. Like today, it's October, it's going to be 80 degrees out. It's awesome, incredible weather. And then the weather's going to turn really soon, and we're going to wind up getting that winter-like weather that's going to show up. It's still going to be sunny out for the most part, but we're going to get those winter days where the snow falls and it's going to be cloudy, and there'll be stretches of 10 days in a row where it's cloudy, rainy, snowy, etc. But then the sun will come back out and melt it off, and then we wind up doing the cycle over again. But yeah, Bachelor's able to stay open because in the springtime, it usually takes a little while for the summer to turn on. And I always tell people mid to late June's when it really, like, the switch flips and it's just like 80 degrees every single day. But if people are new and they relocate and we get some teaser weather in February, March, or April, and they want to get their gardens out and plant their tomatoes and other very, very temperature sensitive plants, they're in for a rude awakening, especially if they're outside, because we always get that next freeze, and the last freeze of the year of the winter usually is in May or June even. So you just never know. You got to be careful. But yeah, so we have Bachelor over there, and Century Drive. We'll just circle around here. Todd Lake. We've got Sparks Lake, Devil's Lake's right up here. Green Lakes Trailhead is incredible. It's an amazing hike. Takes you right up in between Broken Top and the South Sister here. So that's pretty cool. That would be a hike on the list for anybody that likes to go hiking and see absolutely incredible views. You get to the top of South Sister. It is the highest peak in the immediate range here. Mount Hood's the tallest mountain in Oregon, but the next two are going to be Jefferson, which is a little bit up here, Mount Washington, Jefferson's here, and then if we scroll down, we have South Sister. That's the next tallest one, along with the North Sister. So, but it's a day hike, and so you can do it in a day. You don't need any technical climbing equipment. You're just essentially hiking up. It gets pretty slick at the very top because of the loose gravel, but you can get to the top, and it's one of the best views you'll see in Oregon, without a doubt. So that is definitely something to put on your bucket list if this is an area that you like the idea of living in. When it comes to the recreational activities, there's just so much to do. So if we scroll back in, we take a look at the north end of Bend here, like we talked about earlier, Target. We got Chick-fil-A. We've got our bowling alley. We've got 2 bowling alleys. Hey, and let's not forget Blockbuster. Okay, the one and only, literally, Blockbuster in the world, the last one standing. So that gets a lot of attention. It's pretty funny. People come and take pictures in front of the signs, and they've even actually used it as an Airbnb before, where people will rent it out and they can just kind of spend the night inside the facility and relive their childhood as if they'd gone to the movie store to rent a movie, and they've got popcorn and the smell, that nostalgic smell, it's still there in Blockbuster. Pretty funny. So it's still chugging along. So again, we've got the fork here at the very north end of town. Highway 97 goes north to Redmond. Highway 20 will take us to Sisters. Tumblewell's another really cool small community. A lot of horse property out there, but it's really developing some character in its little downtown area here. A lot of cool restaurants, as well as a couple other very, very cool businesses. But Tumblewell's blowing up too. People are moving to Central Oregon, and there's just all kinds of places to live that aren't necessarily in Bend. So if you don't like Bend, the hustle and bustle of Bend, it's starting to feel like a city sometimes, and you don't want to live in the city and the crowded noise, then you can find another place in Central Oregon and only go to Bend on the days that you have to. So another place that you can do that, live, is Sisters. Sisters is a smaller town. There's about 3,000 people, and it's right at the edge of the mountains. It's basically the gateway to the Santiam Pass here. So ironically, Sisters is a little bit lower in elevation than Bend, but it's right at the foot of the mountains. And so once you continue on through Sisters, and it's a really cute town, great downtown area, a lot of people moving there right now. And there's just a ton of construction out there in Sisters as well, but way slower life, way slower pace. And you don't have to deal with the Bend traffic and anxiety if that's not your thing. And so you can live in Sisters, and you can live in a very small town, which is beautiful too. There's just so much to do up there as well. But it's the gateway to the mountains, and it takes you right through Black Butte and Black Butte Ranch. And then once you get up here into Jefferson County, you're going to zip up into the mountains. You go right by a few of them on the way to the junction, like we talked about earlier. And then that's where you make the decision. Are you going to be going down 126 to Eugene, Highway 20 to Corvallis, or if you're going to take 22, and that's going to take you up to Salem and eventually Portland. So if we zoom out, you are able to gain a better understanding. Let's see if I can zoom out. Come on. All right, you can see where those roads, those highways start to go their separate ways. And eventually you get to the valley. One way or another, you're heading west, you're going to get to the valley, whether it's Eugene, whether it's Corvallis, Oregon State University, U of O's down here in Eugene, or Salem, which is going to then take you onto the 5 freeway, and then you can travel up to Portland. So that's what the roads in Bend, the Highway 20 and Highway 126, that's what they do as far as going west. And that's how we get over to Portland. That's one of 2 ways to get to Portland. So if we come back and look again, Sisters also has 126 that goes eastbound, and that takes you to Redmond. So what we have here, the 3 main towns in Central Oregon, Deschutes County, no offense, Lapine, is going to be Sisters, Redmond, and Bend, of course. And so what we have here is kind of a triangle. We've got this road here, 126, takes you over to Redmond, takes about 20 minutes as well. This is about 15 miles to Bend, and then we have another about 20 miles or so from Bend to Sisters. And those are the 3 main areas where people live. Of course, Bend's the biggest, Redmond's the second, and Sisters is a distant third, but this is kind of the main area of Deschutes County. When it comes to the people, the things going on, you have Eagle Crest Resort here. There's 3 golf courses at that resort. That's a really popular place for people to stay in the summertime. A lot of people will visit Eagle Crest and they'll spend most of their time in Redmond because it's just closer. But they also will come to Bend too. So there's multiple resorts kind of in that category. Sun River as well, a little bit further south. You talk about Sun River in a different video, but that's obviously the most popular destination in terms of resort in Central Oregon. Versada Ranch is over here. It's in Powell, Butte, but also Crook County. And that's another really popular one, as well as Black Butte Ranch. Those are kind of the primary resorts that we have in the area. We can do a follow-up video at another time to give you more perspective on those 4 resorts, and so you can find out which one's best for you when it comes to visiting. Usually all 4 work for me. I mean, they all have their own character, and they all have their own type of personality, which I love. And so they're just fun to go visit. And I take the kids out there quite a bit. It's great. So real quick, we will zoom into the Redmond area. Now, Redmond has 2 high schools. We just got a new high school there about 5 years ago. And so what I've noticed in terms of living in Central Oregon is I've been around long enough here for 3 new high schools to be constructed and opened. And so what happens when the new high schools open up is a ton of development happens around them in the following years. And that's exactly what happened at Summit High School in 2001 on the west side of Bend. And then this happened here in 2016, I believe, is when Ridgeview High School opened up. And so if you were to go take a drive around the south end of Redmond here, Canal Boulevard, as well as I think Canal Boulevard turns into the old Bend Redmond Highway. But right now there is a scene of construction happening right around this school here. New development everywhere. There's multiple neighborhoods. There's some commercial zone land that's going to be developed here in the very short term. And so that's what's really unique about this area, is that it's blowing up and growing so fast that we end up getting new high schools that are placed probably every 10 years or so, maybe less. We just got a new high school that opened up last year in Bend too, the 4th high school called Caldera. It's on the southeast side of town. We'll look at that in a second. But what happens is these schools go in a remote part of town, and then the development comes next. And it's really exciting because you can get a home in that area right now, and you can feel like you're kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, or at least somewhat remote. But then after a few years, yes, there is going to be more development around it, but that's also going to help the value of your property because it's a focal point of the area in terms of development and future activity. So that's where we're at with Ridgeview High School right now. It's the 2nd high school in Redmond. It was the first new high school in Redmond, and probably long time, probably 70 years. Redmond High School's been there for a long time, and that's on the north end of town here. And so there's good separation in between Ridgeview and Redmond High School, but Redmond is growing at a very alarming pace, as much as Bend is, maybe even a little bit faster, to be honest, because there's just so many people that love Redmond that don't like Bend, and vice versa. They're kind of two different cultures. There's plenty of people that enjoy both, but there's also some that are very particular with what they want. Some people love the blue collar nature, more homey, out of town style in Redmond, blue collar, much more so than Bend, and some people prefer Bend, but I've noticed that plenty of people enjoy both. I do, certainly. I love the culture of Redmond. I love the culture of Bend as well. Two different towns, two different personalities, which is kind of nice to have. And then if we go up a little bit further, we have small town of Terrebonne, right at the north end of Redmond, and that's your gateway to Smith Rock State Park, which is one of the premier rock climbing destinations in the West, probably in the country, maybe even in the world. I know people come from all over the place to come rock climb up there, and it's also a great spot to do a day hike. That Misery Ridge, you better bring your hiking boots, because that is it's pretty steep, but the views are definitely worth it once you get to the top, as well as just the Crooked River that surrounds and goes right through the Smith Rock area. So that's what we have here. Looking into Redmond one more time. Redmond's really blossoming as well. There's so much new development in the town. A lot of people are bringing their business ideas too. There's multiple new restaurants in the area that are just awesome, but there's also room for more growth too. So Redmond is growing, but it's also, there's plenty of room for more growth as well. And that's probably what's going to be happening over the next several years, whether you like to hear that or not. The entire area is just blowing up like crazy. So if we actually look at a quick article here, this is just August 8th, so a couple months ago. And I mean, fastest growing towns in Oregon, and of course Bend is number one. And you can see here, I mean, the median home price at the time was $760,000, which is just crazy, especially compared to just a couple of years ago. But that's coming down a little bit right now. Obviously, prices are coming down in just about every area, just for a short amount of time. But you can scroll through here, and the second fastest town in Oregon is Medford, the southwest of, it's in the southwest part of the state, and their median home price is $429. If we scroll through here, Albany, the Valley, Salem, the Valley, Tigard's up in the Portland area. Eugene, of course, is a big town, second biggest town in Oregon on its own. And then we have Corvallis, Oregon State University. Gresham's a East Portland suburb. But again, Bend is the fastest growing town and area in the state of Oregon. That's no surprise. It's been this way for a long time, and it will likely continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So that basically is going to wrap up the video today. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding of Deschutes County and our general area here. Again, we've had tremendous growth over the last 20 years. We've got 210,000 people that live in the county today. And if we scroll back 20 years, scale back, we probably had 100,000 in 2000. And so, yeah, crazy growth over the last 20 years, and there's no signs of that slowing down. Okay, last thing, if you guys like the lake life, then obviously the Cascade Lakes are an awesome place to spend a day in the summertime. But most of this stuff up here is pretty higher elevation, right? And so we have about 6,000 feet is going to be your average point of elevation in this range here. All these lakes, they freeze over in the wintertime, and they can be pretty chilly. And so what we only have a few lakes in which you can take a ski boat out and just really hit the throttle. So let's take a look at what we have. Prairie Reservoir, that's more of a fishing lake for slow boats, etc. We have Cultus Lake. Where is it? Cultus Lake. Okay, we're at about 6,000 feet here. This is Cultus Lake. You can take the ski boat out. You can let it rip. You can do the skiing. You can do the tubing and all that stuff. That's really fun. And if it's 100 degrees down in Bend, it's probably going to be about 90 degrees up at this elevation. So it can still be really, really worth your while, even if the water temperature is hovering around 50 or 55 degrees in the summertime. It can be chilly. So a lot of people choose not to do that when they take their boat out. They like to actually go north, and they go out of county, out of Deschutes County, and we go into Jefferson County up here. It's about an hour away from Bend, probably about 30 minutes away from Redmond, but we have what we call Lake Billy Chinook. And we call it the Cove, locals call it the Cove, but it's Deschutes River, and it's dammed up here. And you can see here, it's big. It's much lower. It's probably 2,000, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 feet. If you know for sure, just comment in the comment section below to correct me. But the water gets really warm, and it's just awesome. It's really, really fun. The views, it's in a canyon. It's pretty fun to come here in the summertime. So this is a really popular, probably the most popular ski boat lake in the area. And we also have one over in Crook County. It's called Prineville Reservoir, a little bit smaller. But over here is a very popular, this is the Crooked River, and it's dammed up here. And so Prineville Reservoir is very popular as well for ski boat and people that like to zip around on the boat throughout the course of the day in the summertime. So that's fun. Those three, and then we also have a fourth one. If we go down here, it's called Crescent Lake, and it's right here. And so this lake can also be very popular, a little bit higher up in elevation, but some of the best looking water. They also have really good sandy beaches in certain parts of the lake too. So that's a fun lake to go to. Those are the 4 primary ski boat lakes. If you guys are into the lake life. And so Bend and Central Oregon can provide that for you as well, if that's something that you like to do. So a lot of people in that shoulder season in the springtime, when we do have those pocket days of 85 or 95 degree days in May or April, late April even, where the mountain's still open, you can do the whole thing in a single day. You can go skiing in the morning. You can go tee it up and play 9 holes in the afternoon if you want, or you can maybe go to a lake in the afternoon, but you have those options. And that's what's kind of unique about this area, is that there's so much to do, and it's reasonable in terms of its proximity to each other. You can go up to Bachelor and ski in the morning. You could rip over to Cultus Lake if the highway's open. Usually that highway doesn't open from the summer or from the winter time until later in the year, but you could go up to Bachelor, and then you could hightail it all the way up to Billy or Prineville. That'd be a bit of a stretch, but point is that it's possible for you, and we do have people that like to do that. Or you could just go skiing and then golf in the afternoon. So you got those options. You can do multiple things in a single day. It's pretty fun. But again, that's Central Oregon in a nutshell for you. This is Deschutes County. Our primary populations right here in Bend goes all the way across, up and down, north to south on Highway 97. And yep, that's Deschutes County for you. If you guys like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you guys are looking to make a move anytime in 9 days or 90 days, call Zach or myself. We'd love to help you guys make that smooth move to Bend, Oregon. Give us a call, shoot us a text, email, the Zoom meeting. You know what to do. But this is what we're doing. We're trying to earn your trust and earn an opportunity to represent you guys when it comes to anything that's related to real estate. So if that does sound good, then please reach out to us. Otherwise, we'll just plan on seeing you guys on the next video. And I hope you guys have a great day.